right, welcome everybody to the Week 5 recap versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the Real Talk Ravens podcast, and again, we are joined by Palmer Grigsby here. Mike had a wedding to attend, so he could not make it, but Palmer's here to fill in and give us his what did you just call it?
A steamed dumpster fire. I don't know what else you'd call it, just a dumpster fire, a hot turd. You can call it whatever you want.
And my Palmer, why don't you go ahead and show us your shirt here?
So this is a shirt that's it's Ravens Against the World, but it's Ravens against themselves. Themselves. It's not against the world. It's against us. It's against us themselves. I'm sorry, my Sharpie's not the best.
That's the story. That is the story of this season so far. I mean, we're 3-2, but in both losses, it was because of ourselves. Like, you were at one of them versus the Colts, and then we do the same thing this week. We have 7 drops. 7, 3 of which were for touchdowns.
Easy.
3 were by Mark Andrews. 1 of his was a touchdown he dropped.
Yep.
Flowers had 2 drops. Bateman had a drop, and it was a touchdown, probably the easiest one of the day to catch. And then Aguilar missed an over-the-shoulder touchdown, probably for, Lamar is not to blame.
Did I jinx Nelson Aguilar? I was singing his praises all day because he's the only guy to catch the ball. I think I fire you a text, say, well, Nelson's got it, and the next one, whoop, right through the breadbasket. Sorry. Let's talk about – you want to go ahead and get the bad out of the way? You want to talk about the good?
I mean, there's not a whole lot of good.
To talk about.
But,
so this is your show.
I think, that was the 3rd most drops in an NFL game since 2017.
Ravens or NFL?
Any team in the NFL. And we haven't had a drop all season. This was the first game to have one. So it's like we got them all for the first 5 weeks in one game.
It's so funny how Instagram works. Because yesterday, like I said, I paused a lot of my Ravens following activity, but I follow this one. It's like a sports history page, right? And it was a page, I forgot who the player was, but he had Stickum all over his hands. It was a cornerback for the Raiders, and he had that Stickum all over his hands, and he caught 13 interceptions that season, and the NFL banned Stickum in 1980. I would have given $1 million to have a jar of Stickum yesterday.
Oh, my gosh.
It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And I don't know if it's me or I know a lot of the Ravens fans are feeling this way. It just seems like every time we play the Steelers, at least for like the last couple of years, we're just constantly being outcoached by Mike Tomlin. And it's just we find ways to lose and they find ways to win.
Well, you're right. We're 6-7 against them. Now you have to count Lamar not being in Lamar had not played the Steelers in 2 years.
Yeah. But his record's still like 1-4 versus them. So,
and I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I think I did when I was on the pod. I'm a U of L guy, so I've seen a lot of Lamar Jackson football. And honestly, what I'm seeing is not surprising. In our bowl games, Lamar has been terrible. When he would play at bowl games, when he was in really big game situations against Kentucky and big rivalry games, he doesn't come through in the clutch when you need him. And no, this loss is not on Lamar, but that last drive, we texted, I said, how's this going to end? I said, it's going to end in a sack, an interception, or a fumble. You said interception. I said it's a sack. And sure enough, get sacked. Our offensive line in those situations, I know we're going on a rant, but no one is scared of the Ravens' 2-minute offense. No one.
No.
Because our offensive line crumbles like a souffle cooked too long in the oven.
That's true.
Who thinks that Daniel Falele, God bless him, can handle TJ Watt solo? Put Ricard in there to at least be another speed bump. Why are we putting our tackles on islands like this? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I think the turning point in the game, offensively, it was just bad throughout, pretty much. There were some flashes, but throughout, mostly bad. But I think the turning point was the blocked punt.
I'll go, but I agree with that. But I'm going to go back even further, and I'm going to say it was the fumble by
Yeah.
Justice Hill. It was just
Yeah.
like the Colts game part two. I felt like I was
It
back
was
in
the I
I was
guarantee
back in the stadium. It was raining. I had my poncho on, and I saw the fumble. It was the same thing. It
it
was the
was the
same.
same play. They just ran it to the other side of the field. That's what was crazy to me. When they showed the replay, and I was like, holy crap, that is the exact same play that we threw to Kenyon Drake versus the Colts where he fumbled. And it was like deja vu. I was like, I mean,
How does that play? And you know what? You almost want to throw that play out because of the two disasters that we've had when we run it. But when we run it, we get tons of yards.
you can't throw it out. It's not like we're
Justice
getting.
Hill was like Justice Hill was like Barry Sanders yesterday before that.
Oh my God.
And then I don't think we saw Justice Hill after that.
Very little. It
Very
wasn't
little.
like we were giving him the ball either when he was in. He was in and he wasn't getting the ball.
Not at
But
all.
that's just Harbaugh has this thing. If he's able to, he's going to pretty much put you on the bench if you fumble the ball, which I'm not a big fan of, to be honest. I feel like it's better to say, have your players back and kind of just like instill confidence in them. Like, all right, you're gonna bounce back, you're gonna be fine. But that's just me coming from that former player. Like, I don't want my coach to just put me in the doghouse. Like, that doesn't get your spirits up at all.
No, it doesn't. And in my sporting career, I stayed on the bench, so I never got the chance to get put on it. But I will say, it's a two. I see where he's coming from because he's just like, you're professional. You should not fumble the ball. And I was telling you this yesterday. Every time we got tackled, the Steelers went for the ball.
Yeah.
Every single time. And I knew it was bound to happen. And because this year, that's been us. We fumble. That was our
5 fumbles now this year.
5 or 6 fumbles, and I think we've lost half of them, or
Oh, we've fumbled more than 5 or 6 times, but we've only lost like 5 or 6.
Okay, 5 or 6 turnovers off fumbles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, the fumbles.
Yeah, so we just start fumbling way too much, turn the ball over like crazy. It's almost like when is it going to be when are we going to fumble? It's not like if, now it's a when is it going to happen?
Yep. Well, now we've earned the reputation, and it's really not something that we've historically done.
No, and if I'm another team, like you said, the Steelers are going after the ball every play, I would be doing the same thing, knowing that this team has a reputation of fumbling the ball. It doesn't matter who it is. They're not going to hold on to the ball. They're going to give it up. And
Certainly.
It's
ridiculous.
When I worked with the Bills, we actually had every week a player on the opposite team that we highlighted saying that they don't take care of the ball. And we were like, we're going to get a turnover off of this player. Like the whole week, we put their poster up on the board, like up and down the locker room and everything. So they know this is the guy who's going to turn the ball over.
Well, here we go. Lamar Jackson. Kenyon Drake. Justice Hill. Melvin Gordon.
Did he fumble? Yeah.
His history is
yeah.
He's a serial fumbler. Okay. Yeah. Andrews has done good, so I can't put Andrews on that list.
I would put our whole team on it just because we fumble it. It doesn't matter who it is.
That's true. Let's go through, if you don't mind, let's go through each wide receiver. I'm going to start with Zay Flowers. He's a rookie. He was bound to have a bad game. He was bound to. Every rookie is due for one. But I think Zay Flowers' biggest issue, historically great hands, but his issue is he's already thinking about where he's going to go next. And you have to catch the ball first. You got to catch it first. Then you can worry about if I'm going left or I'm going right. His mind's he's already 1 to 2 steps ahead of what he already should be. That was his drops yesterday was purely, what am I going to do after the catch?
Yeah, I think it was mainly, being the nature of the game. And I feel like it was built up all week. Oh, this is the Raven-Steeler rivalry. This is a huge game. If you want to be a Raven, you got to win this game. And so it was in our heads almost. And it was like we were trying to do too much. Like Zay Flowers, he was trying to catch the ball and he was trying to run before he caught it. And he was, thinking ahead, and just, you got to focus on the ball. You got to focus on looking the ball into your hands, and then you can worry about what you're going to do after. But I think it was just throughout all receivers. It was like we just built this game up. I don't know if it's the receivers coach who did it to them. I don't know if it was the older players. I don't know.
I don't either. And then let's talk Rashad Bateman, who at this point has lost all trust, I think, from Ravens fans. It's we've never heard. It's always with Rashad. It's this ain't going to happen again. I'm using this as fuel to get better. But there's never that payoff. We've heard the same thing over and over. Then he doesn't talk to the media. Dude, you have to own it. You got to talk. You have to own that. You don't. I mean, I don't. Who wants to? But you have to. You're a professional. You get paid to.
I did see that he wound up like sending a text to Jamison Hensley or something afterwards, but regardless, like face the music.
Face the music. And did Odell Beckham also not comment? Did
I
he
didn't
also
see anything about him not commenting, but I don't know if they requested him.
I think I saw a thing. It could be wrong, but I thought it was both of them didn't want to talk to Jameson. But
I don't blame him about not wanting to talk to Jameson. He's a terrible player.
I agree. But like you said, if you talk to him when it's good, you got to talk to him when
You
it's
gotta
bad.
talk to him. Yep.
So
Part of the job. But
Mark Andrews always has one game a year where he looks bad. He always has. I can always remember there's one game where it's just like, who is this dude? It's almost kind of like the Monstars and Space Jam. Like Charles Barkley left his own body and it's some kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like it just looks bad. So he had that game today or yesterday. And Aguilar, his old self kind of reared up there for that one. I think he was already running thinking like Tutty.
So one other thing that I guess Rex Ryan had like come out and said on ESPN was like he was ripping our wide receivers coach for I guess they did a whole report and story on how we use rugby balls for the wide receivers. And it kind of makes sense. Like if you're trying to catch a rugby ball, which is bigger than a football,
Huge.
Your hands are naturally going to be wider apart. So if your hands are wider apart, it's going to be more likely you're not going to catch the ball. And it's going to go right through your hands. And that's what I think happened to Aguilar.
I want him catching softballs.
I want him, yeah, tennis balls, something small.
Golf ball.
Golf ball. I don't know why they had the idea for rugby. I mean, I know it.
It's funny you bring that up because I saw him. It's not T. Martin anymore. He's the quarterback coach, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it Keith Williams?
So Keith Williams got promoted to like pass game coordinator, and then they hired another guy to be the receivers coach, but I don't remember his name.
But I saw the rugby ball out on the field before the Colts game.
Yeah, and they did a thing with the reporter before the Steelers game on the field. I think it was Sal Palantonio or whatever. He was out there talking about it pregame. Well, I think Harbaugh's gonna slash those rugby balls and get rid of that. So, anyways, Lamar did his part. Lamar absolutely did his part. He had the highest quarterback PFF grade this week of all quarterbacks with a 94.6. But at the end of the day, 10 points is not enough. 10 points is not going to win you games in 2023.
And what did we hypothesize? Like, what did we say we should have been up 34? We should have scored 34 points. Wasn't that it?
Minimum, 30 points minimum.
There's no chance. Look at the Texans. What did the Texans put on the Steelers last week? 30? Was it 30-6?
Yeah, like the Steelers, they are not a playoff team.
No.
To me, they're a bottom 10 team in the league, easily. We just let them stay in it long enough, and sure, being at their home field, they got the momentum swing with that block special teams punt. And I'm telling you what, our special teams has hurt us in almost every single game this year. We've let up a punt return versus the Bengals.
Yep.
We let up two big punt returns versus the Colts that didn't go for touchdowns, but they were like 25-yard returns, 30-yard returns. And it set them up to win the game for their field goals because their offense wasn't moving it like that.
missing
And
field goals. We're
yeah,
missing field goals this year.
we missed a few field goals. Not that Tucker's getting many opportunities lately, but when he did, he missed the ones that we count on him to make. Why we pay him the big bucks is to make the 60-yarders, not the 30-yarders. I mean, if you want to get into it, we can, but with the whole field goal at the end of the first half, like Tyler Linderbaum supposedly didn't snap the ball because he thought they jumped off sides. I'm not even like worried about that, to be honest. So many people are like, "Oh my God, Harbaugh sucks. He's a terrible coach because he let them not kick a field goal." I'm like, dude, at some point the players got to take accountability. I'm glad Linderbaum spoke up and was like, "Yeah, it was on me," but overall, regardless, like Harbaugh didn't really have a whole lot to do with this game as far besides, I think, strategy wise, I don't think he had a whole lot to do with this like loss.
No, but you kind of went back to it, and the one thing that I think a lot of people are getting upset with Harbaugh is our team discipline.
Yeah.
We don't play disciplined football. We don't execute, and it seems like when we're in these tight game situations, we just absolutely crumble. Like Zay Flowers not knowing to not call the fair catch in the Colts game, for us not to, execute and kick a field goal at minimum at halftime. Like we constantly find ourselves in these situations that we don't know what to do. You can't tell me that you can't yell to a player yell to another player to do something during a game. Like, I don't know. I don't know if we practice these situations. I feel like we'd have to, but I feel like we don't execute them. I know when it's gotten to a point where I know if we need to be clutch, we're not going to be clutch.
Yeah. So, yeah, just offensively, I really don't understand our running back usage sometimes. Like, why, when you have Gus Edwards, who's, I think, maybe the best short yardage running back in the NFL.
Yes.
Statistically, I think he might be the best. Why is he not in on every short yardage play? Why do we have Justice Hill, who is a receiving / scat back? I understand he's really good, but that's not his role.
No.
Gus Edwards is your ground and pound. He's going to fall forward and give you that 3 extra yards that you need. Why is he not in there for those situations? Then next, Ronnie Stanley. He led up the most pressures this week. I know it was his first game back, but 9 pressures. The next closest was 3 by any of the other offensive linemen.
Well, I think it's pretty much well documented among Ravens fans that Ronnie's
he is plummeted, like hardcore. Like he is not anywhere close to what he's been.
No.
Next, when will OBJ earn his big contract? I know preseason we were all about, oh my gosh, he looks so good. Harbaugh, DaCosta, we couldn't be more impressed, blah, blah, blah. But here it is, weeks, 5 now? This was week 5. And OBJ, his best game was in the first week, and he got hurt.
Yep. He doesn't have 100 yards receiving, and he has no touchdowns.
He's not even the leading receiver on the team. He may not even be second or third.
I would probably agree with that.
I would say right now, I bet you the leading receivers are Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, if you count him, Nelson Aguilar.
I don't know. I think Bateman probably has more yards than OBJ.
He probably does, just because of availability, but
that's there's another good question, and this is a good thought when it comes to our offense. I loved when I watched Georgia's offense last year. I loved their 2 tight end sets, and I thought us having Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, we would see a lot of that, and we haven't seen anything like that.
I feel like we do a little bit. It's just not enough.
Because of course Brock Bowers is still at UGA, but they had who the Steelers drafted, Darnell Washington. Those guys last year together absolutely ate.
Yeah.
And there were so many 2 wide receiver or 2 tight end sets, and we don't see that at all. And so it's just like Isaiah Likely has disappeared. He's almost become a non-factor.
Yeah, this week I saw, just looking at the snap counts, Isaiah Likely played 8 snaps on offense. That's nothing. It doesn't make any sense. I know he dropped 1 pass versus the Colts, but he also had a big play versus the Colts, I think. But either way, I mean, I don't want to be biased, but he's talented.
He's talented, and to not have him, or at least threaten to use him, I
A
think is
player a player doesn't go off for 2 touchdowns and 100 yards receiving in a game in an NFL game just because. Like last year, he went off against was it the Cardinals?
cards. And then he went off and he
Oh,
had a
Tampa.
Tampa. Yeah,
He went off against them and like for good reason. Like he's a good player. Like we need to use him, and especially when you have receivers that are hurt, we gotta use what we got. Like,
the laundry list is huge this week, and it's like, well, it's week 5. That was the whole we'll call it. Well, it's week 3. This is week 5, and honestly, and I know yesterday I was a big Debbie Downer, still am today, but this has been a decade-long stretch that the Ravens have kind of been this way.
consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, and it's who's going to take. We've won one playoff game in 10 years.
I think the problem is we don't have a true leader on the offense. I know we have Mark Andrews, but I mean, maybe he doesn't relate to everybody the way that he needs to, but it doesn't seem like you have that Roquan Smith on the offense
No,
that's stepping up and his voice is heard. Lamar's not going to do it. He's not the vocal type. He's not going to challenge people. Like
no.
you think of great quarterbacks, you think of Tom Brady, you think of Peyton Manning. Those guys were not afraid to get in your face and say something to you.
Yeah, they would eat your lunch.
Yeah, Lamar's over here trying to, you know, be all sensitive, like he's like a freaking therapist or something.
I think he's trying to be everyone's friend versus like, you know,
Sometimes it's okay not to be your receivers' friends. Sometimes it's okay not to be your offensive linemen's friends. At the end of the day, if you're the reason that they're winning games, they're gonna do what they got to do, and you got to, if you got to challenge them a little bit and get in their face, they're gonna respect you for that.
I think so too. And that it is what it is. Offense yesterday, historically bad game. Everything went wrong that could go wrong. And it's all things that, like, Harbaugh says, it's things that we can clean up. Well, I don't know. I generally do not know. Are we going to drop that many games or drop that many passes in a game this year? Probably not.
Yeah.
But situationally, that's my problem. It's situationally, we cannot communicate effectively from our coaching staff to our players to get to execute what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that's the offense wrapped up in a bow tie and tossed out in the trash.
Yeah, defensively, obviously that was our strength. We pretty much only let up 1 touchdown at the end of the game just because they were on the field forever because of our offense. They got tired and they allowed Warren to get a few big runs and then set him up in the red zone for that nice little play that they got. My only problem with the defense was knowing that George Pickens was their only offensive weapon, really. Why are we not double covering him? They didn't have anybody else.
Nope.
Let's just stick him in one-on-one coverage. I know we got players we trust, but this guy has torched us every time we play them.
And he torched the Raiders. The last game the Steelers won, he ripped open for like a big 55, like a 50-yard or 40-some-odd yard touchdown. Like, he can make a play. And we stuck Marlon, who just got back, one-on-one coverage. And I mean, it's the league tends to be wide receiver friendly, so like it's already you're already at a disadvantage.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, I talked to you about it during the game. Almost every single pass that he caught, whether it was a back shoulder or the game winner, he pushed off at least somewhat. It was, some of them were more clear than the others. The last one wasn't as clear, but when he did those back shoulders, he was clearly extending his arm out and pushing off. But even on the last one, he kind of just got enough separation from Marlon right before the pass came. And I mean, he's good at that. So what I think we should have been doing is having Marcus Williams, having Kyle Hamilton over the top. So you're basically having a safety to help that corner. And then, I'm not
I
worried about Pickett running the ball. I'm
know.
not worried about any of the other receivers they have. They didn't even have Fryermuth. They don't
Nope.
have Johnson. They didn't have nobody. So this was our chance to really, I think, dominate them, and we didn't.
No, we let them off the hook in the fourth quarter for sure. And I think it is the stamina thing. I think our defense is just tired.
Yeah.
It's an emotional adrenaline game already. And they had been playing, shutout football for 3 quarters. And then when your offense is 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, you're going to get tired. I think the biggest issue, or the not biggest issue, but I think a problem yesterday that happened was Marcus Williams was not nearly healthy enough to play a football game.
I
He
just
kept
felt
he kept that arm down, and there was one tackle he made on the sideline, or it wasn't even really a tackle. It was like a slap and push. He kept that. It was almost like he was running like a zombie. You know how one arm's down and the other one's like flailing around. His strong arm he had and pushed him out of bounds, and this other arm where his pec was torn was flat. If he's doing that, give me Geno Stone. Give me
yeah,
Geno Stone. Geno's
yeah,
had 2 interceptions this year. He's more than capable of filling in for Marcus Williams. Give
yep,
me Geno and Kyle. And just, I appreciate Marcus, trying to get back. But, dude,
yeah.
at that point,
Geno only played 30% of the snaps yesterday on defense.
it's a crime. That's a crime.
Marcus was in 95%. I think it's not going to be the pass coverage that worries me. It's just going to be the rundown. So honestly, why don't we just put him in on third downs where he can just play pass coverage? He doesn't have to go out and tackle people really. But regardless, Geno Stone deserves to be on the field. One guy that did step up like big time, really opened my eyes was Millette.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go with Brandon Stevens again.
He was definitely really good too.
He played good. Yeah, Arthur Millette, of course, he had the big sack. And that's all I really saw from him. So you might be able to speak a little bit more.
He had like 2 pass breakups. He had a sack, he had a TFL, and then he had another tackle. So he had a really good day on the stat books, and he only played 35% of the snaps. So I think he earned himself some more playing time. He played nickel. So
God knows Darby got his lunch ate yesterday. So
yeah, I don't trust Darby. Darby cannot tackle for anything. And I don't understand why Rocky Sin had 0 snaps. 0.
yeah, was he like a questionable?
He played 17 snaps on special teams. He played 0 on defense.
Well, I've been saying this since really the draft that we need to draft a top dog at cornerback. We don't need to wait until rounds 3 and 4 and get these pipsqueak guys. We need to get a true stud first round corner next year because Marlon can still play well, but he needs someone reliable next door because it ain't Rocky Scene apparently.
Or maybe this is a trade deadline move.
I sent you that thing yesterday where the Broncos could listen to any offers. I mean, I would send a first rounder for Patrick Surtain.
If we're willing to re-sign him, I would.
I would do it. I mean, what's Pepe Williams, Jalen?
Yeah, speak of Pepe Williams, he hasn't done anything this year.
Well, he's been injured.
I know, I'm saying.
So like what are these guys are just eating up a roster spot. Like
yeah. But anyways, I think
we could go all day long.
Defensively, we didn't have any issues. That was the least of our worries. We got all the offense out of the way. But just final thoughts, Tennessee is better than Pittsburgh.
Yep.
We are 1-4 in our last 5 one-score games. That dates back to last January. So, and then also, when we've had a 10-point lead in 6 of our last 9 losses, we've had a 10-point lead.
Yeah, that was our calling card last year.
And both of them this year. Colts was a 10-point lead. And so we are 3-2, easily should be 5-0. Easily. We don't, I don't know. Would you feel better if we lost to the Bengals? Would you feel better if we lost to the Bengals and the Browns?
Honestly, I think I'd rather take the disappointment of just being like we're not good. I
It's
think
weird.
because
It's like we stepped up. It's like we play to our competition.
yep, we have, and that's historically, and for the people that are non-Harbaugh fans, that's a Harbaugh kind of thing. We tend to play down to people, games that we have no business.
But I also think that goes back to what we said with the leadership issues. We need to have some guys on the team step up and be leaders and not let us fall into that. You can't just rely on the head coach. I mean, it's nice to be able to say you do have that in the head coach, but clearly not. So we need our players to step up.
You know what I'm kind of seeing? I'm seeing I'm seeing an old school Ravens problem where you have a strong leader on defense, Roquan Smith. People say Marlon is very like outspoken, or Marlon's loud and whatnot. You have strong defensive leadership, and then on your offensive side, you don't have anybody, and then it's kind of like this Brian Billick.
It's very similar
Scenario where like defense is doing their thing, they're balling out. You can count on the defense to pitch a shutout for maybe 10 points, and then the offense is sitting over here diddling their thumb.
So where we are at then is we need to find our identity. We are in an identity crisis right now.
Yes.
Which is funny because when we had that 2000 Super Bowl Ravens team, they had an identity crisis too. So, I mean, hopefully it goes kind of similarly to that team, but it's time to start living up to the potential. We've got all the pieces. I mean, we've got an elite quarterback. We've got weapons for him to throw to. We have at least, I would say, average offensive line that should be able to do what they need to do. Defense is killing it. So it's time to start living up to the potential. And it starts versus Tennessee.
In London, where
anything can happen.
We don't do good in London.
We don't. And that's why, you know what? Last time we played there, we got there on the Thursday. This time he said, screw that. We're getting there. They're already there on this Monday. Right. Yeah. So, hopefully it goes better than the last time. We're not playing the London Jaguars this time. So
I don't know if I'm gonna watch the game.
I got to get up. I'm in Utah, so I have to get up at like 7:00 in the morning. So
I don't know if I'm going to watch it.
I'm going to watch it because I have to, and otherwise I'll go crazy.
I don't think I'm going to watch it. I didn't watch the Browns game we won, so maybe I just don't watch it.
That's the problem. You've been watching.
I was at the Colts game and I watched every snap of this game, so I'm the problem this year.
Yeah. But I think that wraps up our recap of the Real Talk Ravens podcast of the Week 5 game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hope you all enjoyed. Please make sure you hit us up with a link, with a like, and a share. But yeah, thanks, Palmer, for stepping in.
No problem, man. I grinned and bared it today for you.
Yeah, Palmer didn't, if you weren't aware, did not want anything to do with any Ravens talk whatsoever this whole week after that game. So we'll cut it off. Thank you.
Adios.